right, good afternoon everyone. I know I'm standing between all of you and lunch, so I'm going to try and keep this as interesting and short as possible. We'll have a presentation and a couple of questions at the end if anyone does have some. So as was mentioned, that's actually me and Cameron at the first big day in that we ran. So that was back in 2012. It was only 200 people and it was in a function centre just up in another building in UTS. So it's come a long way since then, and I think it's a great day for all of you to learn a lot about what you can actually do in IT, whether that's through uni or starting your own businesses or a combination of both. And so this is a little bit about me. So I'm currently fun employed at Advisori, Downunder and Layspace. And so I'm just going to answer two questions today, which is how I got here and what the heck I'm doing. So I started at St. Pat's at Strathfield and I graduated in 2010. I did 6 units of IT while I was there. And then I got into the Bachelor of IT scholarship degree at UTS, which I urge you all to look into and to definitely apply for. And so that's actually a scholarship degree where they pay you to go to university and you do a 6-month placement in your first semester and a 6-month placement in your third year. And so internships and graduate positions. So this is what you've heard a lot about today. So I highly recommend you apply for as many internships as you possibly can and to try and just get a wealth of information and sort of understanding of what you can do in IT. So I did 4 very different internships and that led to my graduate role at Deloitte, which I later left to then found my businesses. And so that started at IBM and that was in the strategy and transformation team. And so that was a cool 6 months. They flew me around to Melbourne and Adelaide for a little while on projects, which as an 18-year-old, which is kind of cool. And then I moved on to the ACS Foundation, where sort of we founded the Big Day in that first year there, and I sort of evaluated people on scholarships and different internships that they could get. In my third year, I worked at WiseTech Global, which I think you've already heard from today. And if you're interested in software development, that's a fantastic place to go and get some more experience. I'm sure you can speak to Des and a few other people that are out there for some more information on that. And finally, I worked at Deloitte. So that started as a summer vacation program. So that's a 3-month internship. And then that turned into a graduate role that I worked at right before then leaving and starting my own business. So that's sort of how I got here. So now what the heck am I doing? So when we first, myself and my business partner, who we met at uni, and then we worked internships together, and then we worked a graduate job at Deloitte together, and we decided we kind of need some risk. We need to take a risk, and we need to go and start our own business, which we'd spoken about for a few years. So we started up a company called Advisori, and that's a small business that helps other small and medium-sized businesses implement technology, websites, digital marketing, and other things. As a side project, we started 2 other e-commerce businesses, so Downunder. So that is a company that focuses on sending Aussie care packages all over the world. So if you've got family and friends living overseas, a lot of uni students that go on exchange, it's cheaper than sending one yourself, and also a lot easier because you don't have to go to the post office and put a box together yourself. You can add a note and photo, and our postage is only $20 anywhere in the world. So that was kind of our value proposition that we launched with. And this just started as a side business. We essentially started, going to the shops every time an order came in, getting the groceries and putting them in a box and dropping them down to Australia Post. And that sort of quickly evolved into the business that it is today. So across the 2 e-commerce businesses, we've done over $2 million in sales in 3 years. And that's over 30,000 orders. And we work with a lot of corporates and other businesses as well as selling to direct consumers. So the other business that I spoke about is Layspace. And so that's the shirt and the laces that I'm wearing now. And so that's kind of how I traded in my suit for sneakers. And I turned a passion in sneakers into a business that is generating a fair amount of money now for us, which is awesome. And it gets us working with people like Nike, Adidas, sort of Foot Locker, a lot of the other companies I can take you through in a minute as well. But we sell, you can see up there, so we've got sneaker cases running diagonally, and then custom engraved lace locks, so they sit at the front of your shoes. And so we're one of the few people in the world that actually offer that service online. And then just a huge range of laces. So we were Australia's first real sneaker lace provider. And we've managed to get a lot of stores both in Australia and internationally on board through that. So we started where all great businesses start, which is my parents' living room. And I recently purchased a warehouse for us to move into. So that's across about 4 years now, sorry. So that's a photo of me and Michael in the first days of our business. We started pretty much every day. We would meet up 4 days a week, and we would work remotely for one of the days, which is one of the great things about IT. And here's where we sort of learnt how to do sales. We picked up a lot of clients and small businesses to do new website development, marketing, and technology implementation. So we helped a lot of businesses move onto the cloud. We let them go mobile, and yeah, it was a really fulfilling part of the job, and it was what took up the most time in the initial 2 years before we then started focusing on the e-commerce businesses as well. So quickly we outgrew the living room, and we moved into 7 square meters, which is not very much space at all. It was enough for 2 desks and a whiteboard, and it was actually just across the road, so we had a view of UTS in one of the parts of the office, which was kind of cool. We lasted about 3 months here, and then we moved into an office with a cat, which was quite fun. A little bit less productivity in here, but it allowed us to grow Downunder because we had a lot more room to move. So we started buying some stock in bulk, and we worked on sort of the development of the product and then the marketing side of things. After a while, we tried to get a commercial lease, and you find out quickly as a young person starting a business in your first year, getting a commercial lease is not very easy. So we did the next best thing, and we rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Burwood, which was quite interesting. So Michael and myself spent 16 hours a day pretty much living and working together, which is enough to drive anyone crazy, but we lasted a year. And it's here that we really grew the e-commerce side of things, while still focusing on advisory as our sort of bread and butter and what generated the most money and paid the bills every month. After a while, we moved into a 4-bedroom, 2-story house for 2 people, which is a bit ridiculous, but we needed the space after the first 6 months. And this is when our businesses really started to explode online. So we were approaching some of the seasonal periods there. So Easter, we had just finalized, and we were moving into Christmas. And this is when we do the bulk of our sales for both of the e-commerce businesses, because that's quite a popular time of year to be shopping. And so one day I remember I had a problematic client with Advisori, and I realized that we were spending so much time on advisory, but we could only make as much money as time we could put in, and it wasn't very scalable. And so I walked downstairs, and Michael was making lunch, and I said, why don't we just focus on both of the e-commerce businesses instead of advisory as our main job? And we both agreed that we needed a refresh. So that's when we decided to focus on both of the businesses full-time, which was a scary transition at first because, you know, advisory was sort of stable income and very dependable depending on how many sales you were getting. But we dropped that completely and we focused full-time. So to save some money, we moved back to my parents' place while they were away in Europe, and I didn't tell them. They were very happy when they got back. And we rented a co-working space around the corner just so we could keep the office and the warehouse part of the business separate. And then we spent a little while there, again, focusing on the businesses full-time. And then we moved into a warehouse finally, which we've been for 2 years as our base of operations. And so we had our biggest 2 Christmases there now. We did about $400,000 over 6 weeks in online sales then, which is, you know, crazy. It meant working pretty much 7 days a week for 6 weeks for 15 hours a day, packing orders. And this is when we finally decided that we need some staff to come in and help us. So yeah, we've now got 2 employees packing orders full-time, which is quite good. It allows us to work on the business rather than in the business, which is sort of where our growth halted last year. So that's something important to take note of. Even though it is an expense hiring staff, we generated much more money when we took ourselves out of that position and we allowed them to do the work, and we then focused on growing things more. And so 2 of the lessons that I wanted to get across today. So we didn't really have a plan when we quit. I walked into my boss's office and I quit, and he asked me what I was going to do, and I said, I don't really know. And so essentially we had a list of ideas, but we didn't have anything solid. So we started and we just decided we'd keep going until we failed, and if we failed at something, we would learn from it and we would keep moving forward. And so existing is the first step to success. And so we've actually worked with so many of these companies now on different projects. You know, we do custom laces and products for Nike, the same for Adidas and Asics. Converse, we do special events for. For Downunder, we work with American Express, the Australian government in the US. Qantas, we've had a partnership now with as well. And we've also partnered with Fox Sports on a special box for people that want to watch the footy living overseas. And you can see some of the cool things up there. We do a lot of work with celebrities. So I got to hang out with Post Malone 2 years ago while he was here touring. we've worked on so many sneakers for celebrities, and you can check them all out on our website as well. We did a pair of 18-karat solid gold lace locks for Drake. They were about $5,000 a piece. And yeah, we've got Eddie Maguire up there with our Downunder box, which was a proud moment seeing that on TV. And we even got to do an event with Virgil Abloh when he was here launching his Off-White Nike collection, if any of you sneakerheads know about that. So the point that I want to get across is a lot of these opportunities we didn't actually go out and get. We just started up and we existed and we did what we were doing well, and they sort of came to us, and then we evolved to be able to handle them more and more. So take a risk, actually get out there, and if you've got an idea, just have a go at it. You've got nothing to lose, especially at this age. When I was your age, I was selling things on eBay constantly, and starting your own business has only gotten easier and easier. So if you do have just even a thought that you want to do something like that, you can still go to uni and you can still work corporate jobs as well on the side, but you know, it's very easy to start up an online business these days and just have a crack, because you end up learning so much about different things. And one of the other lessons that I want to speak about is just actually focusing on something that you're passionate about and doing it well. And that counts even if you're not doing your own business, even if it's just work stuff or a hobby or anything else, because it can turn into something great. And I mean, you can see up there, our original Downunder box in the top left was just a Sharpie on a box just to get a concept down. And then we printed off the designs, and then we had it printed professionally, and we focused a lot on the customer experience. And that's how we ended up growing so much, because people wanted to post things like this on Instagram and people wanted to share us online. Every lace-based order that went out for the first 2 years, we wrote a personal thank you note on an A5 piece of paper. And that's what got us growth on Instagram and other social platforms as well. And you can see it's just all about product development. So we started with laces, but then we moved into the custom lace locks. We've even developed our own products in Australia now, and we're trying to focus on manufacturing here because people do care about that. So it's about finding out what people want, finding out what you're passionate about, and just worrying about the money later. We didn't do any of this. A lot of that was very expensive to start off with, but we knew that it would be important and would pay off in the future. And so I will jump into questions now, in case there are any. Yeah. Yep, so the manufacturing we outsource for lace-based to China for the laces. For a lot of the other products, we do the manufacturing ourselves here. So the metal pieces, the engraving, some of our paint pens are all done here. And for Downunder box, essentially we have all of our suppliers here, and we do all of the order packing ourselves locally and send out. Yep. So we are located in Australia, but we've got, for lace-based, we've got shops all over the world. For Downunder box, we send to pretty much every country in the world now as well. And so yeah, we're focusing on our wholesale and business-to-business sales worldwide now as well. But yeah, we operate solely out of one warehouse in Sydney.
What was your biggest problem and how did you overcome it?
The biggest problem, last year we almost ran out of money. So that's something that running a business, you'll hear a lot, cash flow is king, a lot of people say, and essentially we weren't keeping an eye on how much money we were spending, and that was something that became an issue. And so we fixed that by having weekly sit-down meetings with proper reports and looking at a proper budget to fix that issue. Yeah, cool.
Yay. Right, so about that cat, whose cat was it and where is it now?
Whose cat was it? It came with the office, so it was one of the perks, although we didn't have to look after it, luckily.
What sort of budget were you looking at when you started off?
That's a good question. So we tried to do things as cheap as possible while still maintaining that quality of product. So Downunder box was started on a $2,000 budget, and that was literally all of that money was for the boxes themselves. So every time an order came in, we'd run down to the shops, grab everything and put it in to start off with, and then we reinvested that money and started buying bulk stock. So yeah, try and do things as cheap as possible. If you wanted to have a go at something without putting any money in, you can start something like drop shipping, which you could Google later. It's when you sell things on behalf of another business under your own brand, and they'll send it out for you. So you don't have to purchase the stock until you've made the sale. Yep.
Do you have any advice for people who are starting the business, like me?
Yeah, definitely. Just if you're going to fail, fail fast and make sure you learn from it. Don't let failures get you down, because, you know, we've failed at so many different things that we've then learned from and turned into, you know, something that became profitable on the next business or the next idea. But yeah, just start trying and start now, because, you know, you'll find in 4 years you'll have ended up working with a whole bunch of businesses that you never thought would have been possible to begin with.
Subscribe to Artistic Asian YouTube. When you started off, did you have any times where you thought of just quitting and taking a normal job?
Yes. Every couple of months, I would say. Things do get stressful with business, so it's definitely not all, you know, cool projects and amazing things. Sometimes, you know, opportunities dry up. You've got to always look into the future, and you're always working. So there is a lot of times where you've got to think, you know, would I be better off just going back to a corporate job and, you know, earning a stable income? But honestly, the benefits really outweigh those feelings, because it is really cool seeing something, you know, you've conceptualized in your head or drawn on a piece of paper, and then having a product in your hands and then seeing people actually enjoy it. So, yeah, no quitting for me. Yep.
Awesome. What soft skills do you think that this whole process have helped you develop the most?
So soft skills, I would say the internships that I did while I was at uni, and a lot of those opportunities really developed things like, I guess, public speaking, dealing with clients, how to manage client expectations. I learned very quickly at IBM that the client is always right and the client is always king. So that really came across then into our advisory work and our sales, which then sort of came across into the rest of the businesses. Yeah, so that's it.
Considering you were starting your own businesses, how did you ensure that they actually gained publicity?
So that's a good question. It's also never been easier, yet harder at the same time. So digital marketing is more available to everyone now, and it's a lot more accessible. So I know if you've all got Instagram, you know you can boost a post, and you can learn through that way, paying through social media for ads. It is also getting a more expensive way of gaining attention. But that's what I mean by when we first started, you know, we wrote thank you notes. We did it the old-fashioned way. I still send personal thank you emails to all of our customers, follow-up emails to, you know, all of our repeat customers, and those are personal emails. Those aren't things that I just leave to be automated. And so it's about adding a personal touch on the digital side of things that sort of grew our network out so much.
How many years passed from the first time you had this idea to create this business?
So they were all started in 2015 throughout the year. So Advisori was at the beginning, Layspace was in the middle, and Downunder was at the end. So they're all between 3 and sort of 4 years old at the moment.
How long did it take you to like start earning
money? Yeah. We earned money in our first month, thank God. So the beauty of consulting and running the advisory business is the income you generate is based on your time. So we started selling straight away pretty much so that we could keep a stable income after leaving, obviously, a secure corporate job. You're at the back, shaking his hand, yeah.
What's your plan for the future of Layspace?
Plans for the future? Growing wholesale sales, definitely. So we actually stopped wholesale entirely recently. We've revamped all of our product packaging. So you can see our new packaging on the left there. And we've created new acrylic stands for shops. And now we're getting back into selling. So we're trying to secure a lot of contracts, both in Australia and overseas. I'm just working on the network now. Yep.
So you know how you said buying a box from you guys is cheaper than making it yourself?
Yep.
So that's probably a reason why like customers wanted to buy from you. So how did you do that anyway? Like, do you have like an agreement with like a delivery company or something that they give you discounts?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So we started with a little bit of volume. So when we first started, we were actually losing a little bit of money on the shipping that we were charging, but we thought it would be worth it because the value proposition of saying to people it's $20 anywhere in the world was worthwhile, and we made up for that in the box costs. Once we started getting volume though, we negotiated with DHL. Once we negotiated with DHL, we negotiated with Australia Post to give us even better rates, and we've sort of locked in on there. It also helps that we've got 2 businesses sending packages out, but I've also got another friend that we've aggregated all of our businesses together, and so just using the power of, I guess, the volume of all of our orders, we've been able to get some great postage rates now. Yep.
Out of
Where
all
did
people,
Oh.
you could out of all people you could have gone into business ventures with, why did you choose to go into someone you knew from university?
That's a very good question. I should have asked myself back then. No, he's great. We are polar opposites, Michael and I. We share a lot of the same interests. He's a lot better with numbers, financials, processes. I'm a little bit more crazy and on the creative side of things, and so we really balance each other out. So out of 10 ideas that I'll propose, he'll pick one that is the sensible one, and then we'll go along and do that. And I think that's why it's worked. That's also why we didn't kill each other when we lived with each other for a year.
Where did the inspiration for Lace Space come from, and also what happened to the cat afterwards?
Two very good questions. So the inspiration for Lace Space, I was really into sneakers, and there was actually another friend of mine involved in the business as well at the time. And so what we did was he had ordered laces from the US, and they took about 3.5 weeks to get here. And this is right around the time that we had started Advisori, and I said, well, why don't we just start up a business here that's selling shoelaces and see how we go. So that's pretty much that. The cat belonged to the person that we rented the office off. I really hope it's still okay. Yeah.
What was your motivation to keep the businesses going?
To keep them going? It would definitely be seeing things like that. And there's so many more photos that I couldn't include in the presentation, but it's just the cool opportunities that you get that you wouldn't have expected. 4 years ago, if you had said we would be working with Nike in our first year, I would have said you're crazy. But now, we've got contracts with Nike here and in the US, and it's just something that keeps growing. Yep.
What do you think is the best part of your job?
Best part of my job?
Yeah.
So something that's really cool is I don't really do the same thing every day anymore. I get to do a whole bunch of different things all the time. I've been an interstate courier, traveling salesman, digital marketer, website developer, product innovator. So it's just about all of the different things that you get to do. And that's what I liked about Deloitte, and that's why I picked consulting, because it's a lot of different projects. But then I shifted that into sort of my own business, and now every day I do something different, which is great. Yep.
So is there a way that you ensure the Tim Tam doesn't melt in the post?
Sorry?
Is there a way you ensure the Tim Tams don't melt in the post?
That's a good question. It doesn't happen that often. So the chocolate that they use in Australia is actually graded to not melt as quickly as some of the overseas chocolate, which is a fun fact that we learned sending things out. But no, there's nothing special. The boxes move fairly quickly through the postal service. We've only had 1 or 2 issues, and we usually replace them when that happens.
What was the cat's name?
Pistachio. Yeah.
Best name of all.
It's a good name, I agree. I think we've got time for one more.
Yeah. All right. So what was the list of the items in the Downunder box?
So it's changed over the years. The first one was Tim Tams, Dunkaroos, barbecue shapes, Caramello Koala, Freddo Frog, Redskins, Fantails, Minties, and a tube of Vegemite. Oh, and a cute little koala keyring, because that's important. And that is it, unfortunately. So thank you all for listening. I know you all want to go get lunch, so please go out there and do some networking.